Hello and welcome. Today we are looking at the second song on the Encanto soundtrack, Waiting on a Miracle. There are some really interesting things in this song. The way it's structured, I think, doesn't really work with like the verse chorus kind of traditional format. So let's go ahead and see what's happening in this song. I'm Dr. Zach. Grab a cup of tea and join me. Okay, so Waiting on a Miracle. This is Mirabelle's like I Want song, right? If you're not familiar, usually a musical or a film that has music in it like this will have some sort of song explaining like what the character wants. A famous example would be Part of Your World by Ariel, right? She wants to be out of the ocean and experiencing the world on land. So here, Mirabelle is wanting a miracle, right? She's been almost kind of shunned by her family. Well, spoilers ahead, by the way. She wants to be part of her family, right? And she thinks that a miracle will kind of help her be a part of the family. She wants that chance, right? So let's look at kind of how this whole thing is structured because I think that's pretty important. I put in some alternate labels for what's happening here. Genius Lyrics is usually a pretty good source for like the meanings behind things. Like it gives a really nice perspective. If you want to be really picky, I don't think it's peer reviewed, so it's not like the most reliable source, but they have a lot of interesting information on there. I recommend it. And it said that Disney uploaded these lyrics to Genius. So the way that at least kind of the official sources view this is that we have verse 1 here at the beginning, and then the first I can't move the mountains, I can't make the flowers bloom is our chorus. And then we have verse 2 after that. A website I looked up for the chords, the silentguitarchords.com or something. I'll put a link in the description for you. Called verse 2 a bridge, okay? And then we have the chorus at the end. So between those two sources, they agreed on everything except for verse 2, where Silent Guitar Chords thought that this was a bridge instead. Then we have the chorus at the end and an outro for this kind of tag section, okay? Now, my analysis kind of does away with the whole verse chorus thing because to me, a verse usually you have similar, if not the same, melodic material, right? So this verse 1, don't be upset or mad at all, don't feel regret or sad at all, right? Then we get verse 2, always walking alone, always wanting for more. Like it's not the same at all. Like at least Silent Guitar Chords called it a bridge, right? But even then, like we would then only have one verse and everything else is a chorus until the outro. Like it's just kind of strange to try and use the verse chorus terminology here. So what I'm going to do is use a bit more of like the terminology you use when you're analyzing a piece of classical music, where you call your first important idea A, and then when you have a new idea, you'd call that B. If you had another new idea, you'd call that C, right? You just keep on kind of adding letters for each new idea. In this case, though, we have an introduction, right? I don't think the piece really starts going until we get to this I can't move the mountains. I think that's the first like really important idea. The stuff before that's just kind of setting up the song, provides the kind of motion that we need to get the song kicked off. So I really think we have just an introduction here. And that would be something that you would see in a piece of classical music too, to have some sort of like slow introduction, sometimes not slow, but nonetheless to have something that comes before your like main idea. So I would call this first part an introduction. And while I'm mostly interested in just looking at how the lyrics are structured, I will talk a little bit about some of the musical elements because I think they help inform why I chose this kind of structure. Okay, so I do have some notes about the harmony and some of the melody notes that we'll get to in a bit. So we have the introduction, then we have our A section, our first main idea, which happens kind of twice. And we're in the key of A major here, starts on a D major chord. That's important for later. Then where they have verse 2 or bridge, I say this is our B idea. This is a new idea that is important. It stands on its own. And then we go back to our A idea, but the A idea is slightly changed here. I toyed with the idea of calling this A prime, which is when you have a little dash like this by the A, but I think this outro section is more significantly different than our return to A here. So there are some differences in this A section, but I felt like it would be better to save that prime label for the next part. So it could have had like this as A prime and then the next part's A double prime with two little ticks next to the A, but there is actually a very slight difference between these two A sections. When we look at the piece like this, we have a very standard kind of form when we're talking at least about classical music. We have A, B, A, right? We have the first major idea, we have something that's different, and we come back to that original idea. It's a very easy kind of standard form. And I think that explains this song way better than trying to use verse, chorus, etc. Now, why would I call this ending A prime when it does really function kind of like an outro, right? The outro I thought was actually a really pretty good label. And in fact, like it's possible that Lin-Manuel Miranda thought of this as like an outro. But the reason why I'm calling it A prime instead of something also like a coda, so as a coda, the function of it is to like really keep spinning out some of the musical ideas. Like the ideas haven't really had a solid resolution once we come back to the A. So you need to keep on like confirming the key that you're in. And that's kind of the purpose of the coda. It's like this extra material to finish exploring all the ideas and confirm what key we got into. Here, that's not really happening. We actually kind of get some new material in these first couple of lines here. And then we get a return to this when you gave us a miracle, am I too late for a miracle? So to me, it's like some new material, but overall, it is part of that kind of A idea. Now, usually when you see this, you get the kind of flip flop. We have the A material first, and then maybe a little bit something different at the end. So it's like, oh, look, clearly this is A, but then there's something a little bit different, so we'll call it like A prime. Here, I think it's flipped. We get the new material first, and then we get a confirmation that this is just another like A idea at the end. So that was some kind of technical stuff. Let's talk a little bit about what happens with the pitch and the harmony to help support this analysis. Okay, so this is part of the difference, right? I've given you my labels. That's one part of the analysis, but that's not enough. Now I need to give you evidence for why I think these labels exist. And I've done a little bit of that so far. At the end of this intro, we have this C sharp major chord, which if we're in the key of A is a 5 of 6. So the 6th chord in A major is F sharp minor. And if we go to the 5th note of that chord or of that key, right, we get C sharp. And we build that C sharp major chord. That's a dominant or a 5 chord in the key of F sharp. So we're kind of borrowing this chord from another key, right? And we can explain that as it being a 5 chord of the 6 chord. This is what's called the secondary dominant, if you want to look up a bit more about it. And what supports having actually these functional Roman numerals is that we start on F sharp in the next line. It goes, I can't move the mountains. That first I is an F sharp, which when we have our D major chord here, fits within that chord, right? F sharp belongs in the chord, so to speak, of D major. And then something interesting that happens is at the end of these stanzas, we get actually a minor chord in this key. We get the minor 4 chord. So D major is what you would expect as the 4 chord in the key of A. But then at the end, we get this kind of, it's like sentimental or bittersweet kind of quality of the minor 4 chord. So we change F sharp to F natural. And that is something that's consistent here, okay? So then we have a new idea, which is why I think this is B. It's not related to the intro at all, so I don't think verse 1, verse 2 is a good representation of the music. So we get this, something different. When we come back to the chorus, right? The A section, we are in a new key. Now we're in the key of B and we start on E major. All right, and I accidentally labeled the E here for our harmony. It should be in the key of B major. Now C sharp major is a 5 of 5, right? It's the still the 5 of F sharp, but in B major, F sharp is the 5th note of the scale, right? So in A, it was the 6th note. Now we have B to F sharp is the 5th note. So we have a 5 of 5. And the melody still starts on F sharp. That's the really cool thing is we have the same starting pitch for both of these A sections, but in the first one, it was part of the chord. It was that F sharp starting pitch. And then here, it's an F sharp that is the 9th above E major, right? So if we have E, G sharp, B, that's our normal chord, then F sharp above that would be 9 notes above E. It's also 2 notes above E, but the way that it's spaced, 9 is a better representation. And by 2 notes, I mean like it's a second, right? A major second. So with this lift now, I mean, this is a very common thing to do. It's just to kind of like move the whole melody up a half step or up a whole step. We get something that sounds pretty fresh, and we get a little bit different part of the melody. Now, the difference here, right, of starting on that 9th, this is why I thought about making this A prime, but what actually happens is in the first chorus, it goes, I can't move, and that pitch is a 9th above the D major. And here we're just starting right on that 9th. So the only difference between like what happens with the melody is that kind of lift into that 9th above the chord being played. The first time, I can't move. And here, she just starts right on, I would move the mountains, but in a different key. So this C sharp major is really kind of like a crucial part of the harmony and sets up both of these A sections. That's why I think these are both A, is because, you know, even though we have a different key, even though we have a little slight change to the melody, overall, they are the same, set up by C sharp major. That C sharp major wants to go to F sharp. So we have F sharp in the first A section as part of the D major chord, and here we have F sharp in the second A section. But now as that 9th, that was already set up by the first A section, right? So it would make sense here in the chorus to have that change, to have that little bit of a melodic change, because the melody wants to go to F sharp, and F sharp functions differently in these two different keys. So that's why I think that the harmony here really helps inform what is an A section. And then remember that minor 4 chord I talked about that gets played kind of at the end of each of these? It's like waiting on a miracle. It goes bum 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 dun. Happens every time at kind of these ends of the A sections, and we get that again here when you gave us a miracle. So that really significant figure, I think, is what makes this an A section. It's so consistent with all the other A material that I just felt like this has to be some sort of A idea, A prime in this case, because we have something different, right? I am ready, come on, I'm ready. That we haven't really had before. I've been patient and steadfast and steady. And then this bless me now as you blessed us all those years ago has some similarities to I can't take another night up in my room. Can't keep down the unspoken, invisible pain, right? It has some of that same kind of gesture. So we get back into that A idea on this third line. And then that when he gave us a miracle, we have that figure in the accompaniment with the minor 4 chord. And then am I too late for a miracle? And the cool thing about this line is it is just guitar, right? It's really sparse. And to me, it kind of calls back to that introduction that we had. So it's a nice way to kind of wrap up the whole song. We started with more kind of sparse, guitar strumming as she's trying to figure out what it is that she wants, if she's fine, if she's not fine. And then here at the end, she has that question, right? And we get the good sparse guitar kind of back at that point. So really cool stuff. Okay, really went deep in on the structure here, but I think it was important because This isn't really like a verse chorus kind of song. We have, I think, more like an ABA within an A prime. And it is not unusual to have A like twice at the end, right? Because A is our most important idea. Lin-Manuel Miranda helps keep it fresh by adding that new material first and then kind of tying it back into our A. If anything, I would say maybe this like fits as the outro, or you might see it almost like a bridge, right? You're kind of bridging here in these two lines and then going back to the A idea. But with how it's been broken up kind of online, I think this would be the best way to label everything. All right, so now let's look at some of the rhyme schemes and see how that can inform our labeling here of ABA. For this intro, the rhymes are super tight. We have, right, don't be upset or mad at all, which is being rhymed with sad at all. So we're not just rhyming these last two words exactly. We have the previous word also rhyming. So we're basically rhyming three words at a time. But even better, we have upset and regret as internal rhymes between those two lines. And if you include don't and don't, like there are so many similar sounds between the two lines, it works so well. It's great. Then she says, "Hey, I'm still a part of the family madrigal." Well, sad, mad, right? At all, drigal. So these rhymes that he's chosen, mad and all and sad and madrigal, right? It all works. It's all super tight, awesome construction of the lyrics here. So this is like kind of the first part of the introduction. And then now we get the increased kind of emotion, right? Thrusting us into our first A section. So I'm fine, I'm totally fine. We'll stand on the side as you shine. I'm not fine. So there's this kind of interesting thing about like almost a reflection as like a mirror in this piece where she starts with I'm fine and then there's a line and then I'm not fine. Okay, fine, not fine, the dichotomy there. Okay, now let's look at our A section. Here we have mountains, which doesn't rhyme with anything. And then we have bloom and room, and then miracle at the end. So we basically have A, B, B, C. That's the same for the next one. Broken doesn't rhyme, but we have hurricane and pain that rhyme, and then miracle, which doesn't rhyme. A, B, B, C. In the B section, this one is not quite as consistent. So always walking alone. Alone doesn't rhyme with anything, but we do get more rhyming with the door in the middle of the third line. Always wanting for more, like I'm still at that door, longing to shine like all of you shine. So then having these consistent words, right, can help build some coherency. Just like before, I didn't really mention it, but both of these C rhymes in the A section are the same word, right? So that can help kind of build some consistency over the course of the song. And then we have all I need is a change, all I need is a chance, all I know is I can't stay on the side, open your eyes. So side and eyes, right? There's a little bit of a rhyme there. And then the only difference between these two lines is change and chance. Now, there's no vowel rhyme or anything there, but we still get the ch consonant and we get the kind of exact same thing for the first bit, right? So what's kind of tying this all together, we have this all I need, all I need, all I know. So the beginnings of the lines are pretty consistent. And then we still get that change and chance. So he could have done something like, all I need is a change. All I need is an opportunity, right? That just doesn't work as well, though, as change and chance, because we still have at least a similar sound between those two lines. This is why I think this is just a B section. It's completely standalone, separate kind of thing. In the intro, we have really tight rhymes in the first part. We get the end rhymes between fine and shine. And then in the A section, it's A, B, B, C, A, B, B, C. When we get back to the A section here, you will see that it's the same thing. Mountains is A, grow and know and go, even. That's kind of your B. And then miracle is again our C. So the A section is super consistent with how the rhymes are presented. A, B, B, C. The next one, it's A, B, B, C again. Broken, new, do, and then go. So that is really well crafted, right? Another kind of interesting thing about this B section is all of the lines kind of allied into each other. So always walking alone, always wanting for more, like I'm still at that door, longing to shine like all of you shine. So those last two lines kind of allied into each other. And the same thing happens in the next one. All I need is a change. All I need is a chance. All I know is I can't stay on the side. Open your eyes, open your eyes, open your eyes. And that C sharp major chord that I mentioned before is played right here on the open your eyes. So really big emphasis on that C sharp major. But instead of going into this D major that we expected from before, we get this lift into the E major chord, a whole step above. And the melody starts on a different kind of color note. It's not part of the E major chord, it's the ninth above, but we heard the ninth above in the it's really well constructed melodically. When I first was listening to this, I like paused and took some notes on the what I've labeled as intro and A section. And then I listened to the B section going into this next A section. And that A section, this one right here, really felt like a chorus. Because we have this what feels like a verse. Like I think if we started on this B section, that would feel like a verse. And then we get this huge buildup and lift into a chorus kind of figure, and that would work really well. But because of how things are presented, right, we don't have quite as much energy in this first A section, and then we amp up the energy for the second A section. Like that makes sense when you think about it that way, versus like trying to say verse 1 and verse 2 or bridge, like it just doesn't quite fit as well. So as I talked about, we have A, B, B, A for both of those, and then let's look at our A prime. Now here we don't have A, B, B, A. What we do have is ready and steady. So that'd be AA. And then a go doesn't rhyme with anything. And then miracle. So it's like AA, B, C. And then this last line is kind of almost like a tag. Am I too late for a miracle? But it still has that kind of like C. And then we have another C at the end. But if we're just looking at 4 lines at a time, because that's what we've been doing so far is we've had just 4 lines for the A section, right? Then we've flipped. Instead of A, B, B, C, we now have A, B, C. And why would we have that in this section? Why would we change the pattern? Well, my explanation is because these first 2 lines are new musical material. Remember how I said this third line shares some similarities with our A sections that have come before in the same spot too, right? I can't take another night up in my room. And here, bless me now as you blessed us all those years ago, right? There's a similar melody that matches the third line from what came before. And when you gave us a miracle, that also works with the fourth line of what's come before. So these 2 lines are the same. And so since we have new material at the beginning, we need a rhyme to help make that strong, right? To strengthen it, because that new material is going to be pretty weak, as it were, if we're talking just about like structure and pitch and such. That's going to be pretty weak. But if we add a rhyme, then it strengthens it. And we still kind of have a similar pattern because instead of A, B, B, C, we now have that A, B, C. So we only rhyme one time, right? We only have one rhyme in the entire thing. So what else can we take away from this? Well, we have this kind of idea of a reflection that I was talking about, right? I am fine, I'm not fine. There's the dichotomy. Here she says, I can't move mountains, I can't make flowers bloom, I can't heal what's broken. But then when we come back to that A idea, she says, I would move mountains, make the trees and flowers grow. I would heal what's broken, right? So we have that kind of reflection there, which is a cool way to relate these 2 A ideas without having the exact same thing again. While we don't have consistent end rhymes in the A section, we do have consistent beginnings, right? I can't, I can't, I can't, I can't. So even though our end rhymes aren't like super strong in like it's AABB or ABAB, where all the lines have kind of like a partner somewhere, we do have the consistent line openings, which can kind of help bridge the gap between these things. So as far as trying to find something wrong, wrong is not really the right word either. There's something that could be improved in this piece. Again, it is really difficult. But what I would try for, like if you want to do this as an exercise or you're looking for ways to improve your own lyric writing, is we have like miracle and miracle, which kind of ties these two stanzas of our A section together. So we could have tried to have a rhyme between broken and mountains, right? If there's a rhyme here, that would help kind of bind this whole thing together. Or if this broken line rhymed with bloom or room, then you could kind of see the continuation of the rhyme here going into then a different rhyme and then ending with our miracle. Miracle kind of acts like the anchor, right, of all of this. It's consistently at the end of each A section stanza. We also get that minor four figure in the accompaniment. That's our anchor for this. That's what we can really hold on to for this whole song, is this last line. But as far as like these first lines, there would have been a way to try and connect them somehow. So I took a stab at doing something like this. It's not very good. I will just warn you right now. But just to give you an example of what I'm talking about, I changed mountains to montañas and flowers to flores, right? We've used some Spanish words, and those are pretty common ones I feel like people would know. So we would tie both of those into Spanish words, right? Like, I can't move las montañas. I can't make the flores bloom, right? And you could choose whether you wanted English or Spanish articles for those, or maybe leave the article out if it worked a little bit better for the rhythm. But like, I don't know how that works in Spanish. So like, I'm not an expert. So then I really struggled. Okay, montaña, right here, montañas. There is a Spanish word that I found. Now, whether or not this actually means what the translation said it means, and Google Translate translates this as snacks. It was botanas, Botanas. Botanas rhymes with montañas, although I don't think so because the end in montaña has the tilde above it. So I think it's more like botanas and montañas. Botanas. Let's listen to somebody else pronounce that real quick.
Botanas. Botanas.
So see, it's not strong at all because one, that word is less known. Like I had to search kind of high and low for it. Two, the accented syllable is on the first, whereas in montañas, right, we don't have the accented syllable first. We have it second. So it's not very strong at all. But as you can see, then that would at least, we have I can't move the montañas. I can't heal with botanas, right? The snacks. And that way we could kind of connect these two stanzas together. Like I said, what's written is way better than what I came up with. But that's just like an example of maybe how we could have a little bit more connection between the stanzas in the A section. So those are my thoughts on this piece. Let me know what you think, whether like my labeling makes sense or if you really hear like verse and chorus and bridge in this one. It'd be interesting to hear what you think about it. What do you think about that last kind of A prime or outro, right? How do you kind of explain that within the song? I feel like my evidence of just kind of like flipping where the rhyming words happen and having that A section stuff come back really makes this like an A prime, but like there's kind of some shades of gray to this one. So let me know what you think. Thank you all for watching. If you can, check out my Patreon. Thank you all for your support, and I will see you next time.